Hello everybody, I'm Richard Oldner, and please, welcome to the channel. But you know what to do. You've been coming here a long time. Go do all that stuff. Go over here and do the like and do the share over here and the subscribe and ring the bell. Do all that stuff, because come on. You want to get notified when I do all this testing, and today is a perfect example. We're going to take a look at two big blocks. I mean, come on, what could be better? We're going to take a look at one of my favorites, the GEN-6 7.4 liter 454. I have a big bang coming up on one of those. Not too long from now. And also now a new favorite, the GEN-7 8.1 liter 496. What we're going to do is take a look at a comparison between these two motors, the smaller motor and the bigger motor in stock trim, and then the smaller motor and the bigger motor after we've installed a cam upgrade on both. And along the way, there's some other comparisons. So check it out. Hey guys, if you're new, welcome to the channel. But what happens if you have a question? Hey, I saw this video, but I wanted to ask Richard a question. Well, you're in luck. You get to do that. Join us nightly, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on the live feed. You can come on, join the group. If I don't have an answer to your question, chances are there are lots of bright guys. They might have an answer. So if you've got a question about any of the video that you just saw, or maybe you're working on a project, join us live, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on this channel. Okay, guys, we can jump right in and see what happens when we compare our GEN-6 7.4 liter 454 fuel injected and compare that to a GEN-7 8.1 liter 496 also fuel injected, run in the same manner on the engine dyno, so it's configured the same way, so we can do a direct comparison and just see how the power curves differ both in stock trim, because we ran them stock, and we ran them after we did a cam upgrade on each of them. But on one of them, get ready to make the comments, I'm going to have to change the intake manifold. So we went from the EFI intake manifold to a carbureted intake manifold, but I'm going to show you what that change is before we show you what happens with the cams. But save your comments. There's more. There's way more to come. Let's take a look now at our comparison between the 454 and the 496. This is our GEN-6 454. Plucked from the wrecking yard, same way that the GEN-7 came. We equipped it with long tube headers. We equipped it with a Holley HP management system so we could dial in the air, fuel, and timing. It had an open throttle body. It had a Mazir electric pump, so no accessories, which is why this thing, when we run it in this manner, obviously, and we're running it colder than it does from the factory, which is why it makes more power than it's rated at, because lots of guys go, oh, that's a happy dyno. No, it's actually making this power. It's just doing it because it doesn't have all those other things that limit power of the factory tune and all that stuff. So run in this manner on the engine dyno, or GEN-6 454, which is a 96 and up version of the 454 that came after the throttle body injected Gen-5 stuff, produced 356 horsepower and 486 foot-pounds of torque. So it did well. Lots of torque production down low. It's making peak torque down at 3,300 RPM. And peak power is happening at 4,400 RPM. Obviously, these bigger motors definitely designed for torque. But if you want torque, what's the best way to get it? Add displacement. So let's compare this 454 to a 496. And we've got this is our 496. We actually loaded the 496 down low for all of you guys that want it down at 1900 or 2000 RPM. There you have it. That's what we ran. And we ran in the same configuration. We ran the 496 with long tube headers and collector extensions. We ran it with the Holley HP management system. In fact, we ran it with the same injectors. We ran it with the same throttle body because the 496 comes with a drive-by-wire throttle body, which we didn't want to control. We used a manual throttle body, and lucky for us, the GEN-6 throttle body bolted right on for the GEN-7, so we could use it as a manual throttle body. Again, Mazir electric water pump. We ran it cold and optimized the air, fuel, and timing on this thing. On the GEN-7 motor, differed from the GEN-6, obviously had more displacement. It has cathedral port style big block Chevy LS marriage kind of heads. It has an LS-esque long runner kind of cross ramp, kind of an aluminum version of a long runner LS intake manifold, and obviously the throttle body. And equipped as such, our GEN-6 or our GEN-7 496, the 8.1 liter, produced 421 horsepower and right at 550 foot-pounds, 549 foot-pounds of torque. And you can see solid gains kind of through the whole curve there. We would expect that of displacement. Obviously, there were, subtle differences in compression and head flow and intake design and those kinds of things that also contribute to this. But bigger motors make more power, and obviously they also make more torque. So now what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 8.1 liter, and I'm going to show you what happened when we change from the long runner EFI intake manifold to the carbureted intake manifold, and this is what it looked like. Not much of a change. Basically, we're just kind of rocking the curve there. The EFI intake manifold made more power down low, below 3,600 RPM, but made less power up top. The dual plane carbureted Edelbrock, this was an Edelbrock RPM air gap and a 750 Holley, made more power on the top. Did not change it dramatically. Peak torque was, on the carbureted version, was down to 476, but peak horsepower was up to 370 horsepower. Again, just kind of rocking the curve. So now let's take a look and see what would happen when we added, a mild kind of performance camshaft upgrade to both. Okay guys, let's jump right in and find out how these two motors, the Gen-6 454 and the Gen-7 496, let's see how they compare the 7.4 liter to the 8.1 liter after we've upgraded them with a camshaft and valve spring, because it required both on both of these motors. And again, they're run in the same manner. But before we get to that, this is our cammed version of the 454. So of the Gen-6 454, this is what the power output that it made with a camshaft in it. It made 428 horsepower. 514. For the guys that want to see what the camshaft was worth, here is what the cam upgrade was worth. Basically made power everywhere from 2,600 RPM all the way out, and pushed power from 370 horsepower up to 428, and peak torque from 476 horsepower up to 515. So it did well. So go ahead and get rid of our go ahead and get rid of our stock version. Here's an interesting comparison. So the guys that had the 454, obviously they want to be able to say, mine makes more power than a 496. And you can. This cammed version of the 454, if I overlay that versus a stock 496, the cammed version of the 454 makes more peak power. 421 horsepower versus, drum roll, 428 horsepower. So from 4,800 on out, the 454 made more power than the 496. But if you look everywhere below that, you know where you'll be running the motor 95% of the time. The bigger motor obviously is the way to go, even compared to a cammed version. But I just wanted to include that, give the smaller 454 guys something to brag about. But this is our cammed version of the 454. We need to compare that to our cammed version of the 496. And again, not surprising, the 496 makes more power everywhere after we have installed the camshaft in it, and it did really well. Equipped with the camshaft, the 496 made 464 horsepower. Torque was way up there. 582 foot-pounds of torque. And I have a video up that shows you, the before and after of the cam test on the 496. But if you guys want to see that here, we'll go ahead and take a look at that. I'll get rid of the 454. And here we can see this is basically what the camshaft was worth on the 496. We went from 421 horsepower to 464, and we went from right at about 500 foot-pounds or 550 foot-pounds, 549, up to 582 foot-pounds. So the camshaft was worth a good bit of power, and just like with the 454, the ZZ502 cam, and again I'll put specs up on both of those, the ZZ502 cam made more power basically everywhere through the tested RPM range, although we didn't run it down low at 2,000 RPM. I wish that I would have, and I apologize to the guys that want the 2,000 to 3,000 range, which is very important for a lot of the truck things. I honestly think that given the size of the ZZ502 cam, it's probably going to be better than the stock cam all the way down there, but we can't say for sure unless I actually test it. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our demonstration of what the cam does, and we're going to bring back up both of our cammed versions. It appears, if you look at the very top of the rev range out here past 5,000, 52 or 5,300, that we got a lot of good gains in the meaty part of the curve for the 496, as compared to the 454, but it starts falling off in power production. So let me know what you guys think in the comment. What do you think that is? Do you think that the Gen-7 496, you think the power's falling off at the top because it doesn't have enough camshaft? Do you think it's because it has a really, really long runner intake and not the dual plane intake manifold that we ran on the 454? Or do you think it's something else? Let me know in the comments. I'm Richard Holder. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. I love this kind of comparison stuff, but I got more testing coming up.